should preface this with, I usually don't read horror novels. With the exception of Mexican Gothic, which technically counts as horror and was pretty damn good. But I picked this book up because I've read a lot of cozy mysteries and YA fantasy in the past, and Amazon recommended it to me. And with a title like The Southern's Book Club to Slaying Vampires, I thought, okay, supernatural mystery of sorts. Instead of just detectives, they're trying to slay a vampire. Fine by me, but no, it is horror. But because it starts out in a hilarious fashion, I didn't really catch on to that until like halfway through the book when it gets really gross and... ugh. Yeah, I should stop trusting Amazon's recommendations. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kat, and today I would like to talk about The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Patricia is a housewife and mother to 2 children who takes care of everything the family needs, and her one big hobby, after the first book club goes belly up, is the book club she founds with 5 other friends where they read books about real true crime, true crime, not real crime, and serial killers. One day a stranger moves into town, and after being friendly with him at first, Patricia notices a few things and gets suspicious. She starts digging a bit and finds out that maybe this new guy is not all he pretends to be. She enlists the help of her book club after she finds out what she's actually looking at and tries to drive him out of town. This review will be full of spoilers, I think, because I need to complain about, well, characters. They work as intended, but oh, did they make me angry. Halfway through the book, the plan of the book club fails and Patricia is admitted to hospital for a while. Then it skips a couple of years and the vampire is still in town. But now he has munched his way through the children of the poor area of town and is coming for Patricia's children. So now she really needs to do something or it will hurt some of her own. You may catch one bit that made me really angry already, but yeah. Once again she rallies her book club members and the nurse for her now departed mother-in-law, and together they set out to finish this vampire. In parts I could understand and empathize with Patricia. Her children are the most important part of her life and she would do absolutely anything for them, which is fine, but then, and we get into spoiler territory here, the nurse that is taking care of her mother-in-law lives in the poor town and has at least 2 kids. Well, 2 kids living with her and I think other kids have already left. And she tells Patricia after they get on the level that, something is up with this guy. She tells Patricia that kids are getting hurt in the area she lives in, and it's supposedly a white man, but she herself hasn't seen him. And Patricia comes by at some point because she's a nurse to look at one of the children that is apparently hurt, but nobody knows what exactly is happening. The first victim commits suicide, like a 9-year-old commits suicide after the man in the woods has done something to him. And Patricia comes by to check on another child who is displaying the same symptoms than the first victim. Well, this child vanishes while Patricia is talking to the mother. Patricia runs through the woods and actually runs into her neighbor and watches something that she can't quite comprehend. Well, it's a vampire sucking on somebody, right? So, except he doesn't work like Dracula or anything, but it is still a variation of a vampire. So she literally watches this guy hurt a child, then first runs off, which I guess, you don't know what you're dealing with. It's borderline acceptable, maybe, at least to get help. She goes back to people and tells them, yeah, I watched this guy hurt a little girl. And the audacity on everybody else in her circle to just you must have imagined it. It's like, Bitch, what are you talking about? People tell you that kids are being hurt in this area. She tells you, I saw our neighbor do it. And they're just like, oh, no, he's a member of my yacht club. He can't be bad. It's like, you, oh. Anyway, the book club members at first believe her and try to help. But because they are all more concerned with having their marriage be okay or listening to whatever their husbands have to say, and there's literally anything on the board. Slick has a husband who wouldn't allow her to join the book club if he didn't think it was Bible study. I'm already ready to hit somebody. And somebody else is stuck in an abusive marriage. And Patricia actually catches on to that because she visits her friend at some point and sees, okay, she's been beaten and stuff that she really cares about has been trashed. But then it jumps 3 years and these two are still together and Patricia doesn't seem to give a shit what kind of marriage her friend is stuck in. And I mean, it is not her problem to solve, yes, but the fact that it just completely dropped out of her consciousness really bothered me. But then when the neighbor catches on to the fact that Patricia is on to him, he just rallies all of the husbands and they all congregate in their living room and they talk down to their wives in a fashion that made me so fucking angry. Like, and all of the wives just, except for Patricia at this point, just fold over and apologize for seeing things where there were no issues to be seen, really. And if I had been in this room, I would have hit at least one of the husbands with a fucking chair. Anyway, because Patricia feels helpless after this, and fighting doesn't seem to be an option for her at that point, she tries to commit suicide. And, well, she makes it through. But this is what her husband then uses to guilt her into thinking that it's all her fault and she should just let it be. That's how we skip 3 years with a vampire who's hurting kids in town and the only one who still seems to care and in the meantime managed to get her kids out of town so they are safe from this guy is the nurse, Mrs. Green. When it becomes clear that the vampire is now going after Patricia's kids, she has the audacity to go back to Mrs. Green and ask her for help after she just ditched her because, oh yeah, well, it's like the poor area of town is mostly black. It's like, yeah, but now you're coming after my children. And you're like, wow, for her to have the nerve to go back to Mrs. Green, be like, yeah, I ditched you 3 years ago. I didn't stick to any of my promises, but I need your help now. Thankfully, Mrs. Green is the bigger person here, and she's also the one who has to deal with most of the shit, really. She's the one who gets stuff done in the end, so, you know, it's not really mostly due to the book club that this guy gets dealt with in the end. I would say what this book does really well is the helplessness of Patricia when she's faced with a supernatural evil and nobody believes her. When I think of horror, I tend to think of like grisly scenes and torture and monsters. Okay, there is a monster in here, but you know, I meant more bestial monsters. But I would say that the helplessness Patricia feels for a good deal of the book works very well for horror as well. And then neither the scenes where somebody got hurt, nor the victims that they find, nor the scene where they deal with the vampire in the end bothered me all that much, even though some of them were grisly, I'd say. But what really got me in between, Patricia is hiding somewhere and there are plenty of roaches around because that seems to be a thing in the South. Like, further towards the beginning, there's also like roaches dropping from the ceiling in her own house, and I'm like, how are you living in this house? It's like, ugh. But anyway, there's a scene where she has to stay still and the roach goes places on her, and I was just like, oh, ugh. You know, if you get to the part where she hides in a pile of clothes, just skip it if you can't deal with roaches, because I nearly puked at that part. What the story does really well is make me hate all of the husbands, like with a passion. Oh. Yeah, I think Carter might be my most hated book character of the year so far. Even when you get to the darker parts of the book, it still has a couple of really funny moments in it, and it was just great. Like, it started out on a hilarious note that completely misled me as well. Like, as soon as Patricia starts feeling helpless and her husband is being a dick, and I was just like, yes, all the fun parts gone. And yeah, it's because the Amazon recommendations misled me to think that this might be just like a cozy mystery or fantasy kind of thing, but no, it was straight up horror. So while this is not my usual kind of read, and I generally don't enjoy horror all that much, this was a pretty good book. Oh, with the exception of, we can't have a true monster running around without including a rape. I was like, did we really need this? Did we? He could have also turned somebody else into a vampire in a different fashion. And also, this brought up one of the things that made no sense to me. He goes on and on about how he's unique and there's only one of his kind in this world, but then he obviously knows how to reproduce or how to create others of his kind. So if you're the only one, does this mean you had offspring at some point and you just murdered all of them to be unique? Or, I don't know, that part didn't make much sense to me, but, Overall, the story still had me hooked from beginning to end, even though I could have really done without the roach scene. So all in all, I think it is this cat. And if you enjoy horror, then this should be for you. If you do not like grisly scenes or insects going places, then you probably want to stay away from that. In conclusion, do not trust the Amazon recommendations, or read everything about the book before you actually buy it. I mean, I read the blurb and that still could have passed for supernatural, cozy mystery, supernatural something. Yeah, but here we are. Don't regret buying it. Sorry for the many spoilers, but they needed to be there so I could complain about certain things. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment if you want to help the channel out, and I'll see you next week with another video. Bye guys!